Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to be comparing fighting with the sword and buckler to fighting with the sword and shield. Okay, and that's going to be very important for us because as we go through various sword and buckler plays, okay, and then we try to apply it to a full-size shield, which is basically the focus of this channel. We have to know what what the differences are. Okay, there are certain limitations that the shield is going to have, certain things that have to be done different, and at the same time, the shield's going to allow us to do certain things that we couldn't do with the buckler. Okay, so we have to have a good understanding as far as the difference between the two. The first thing, right, with the sword and buckler, basically when you come into measure, the sword has to enter measure first. And the reason for that is because you cannot rely on the buckler for defense. Okay, because basically, if you come into measure, right, with a guard like this, and you're going to try and rely on blocking with just the buckler, it is too easy for somebody to change their line of attack in the middle of the cut. So, for example, I can start high and then go low. Okay, or I can start low and come high. Or I can start on the right side and turn over to the left side, or start left side high and go right side low. So basically, there's too much room for error in trying to catch your opponent's sword with just your buckler. So that's why when we come into measure, we're basically looking to make blade on blade contact, regardless of which quadrant we're attacking at. Okay, so we need that blade on blade contact. The sword and the buckler are essentially one. As far as attacking goes, okay, or defending. The only time that you can separate the two is when you control your opponent's blade. And to give you an example, sword here, shield here, sword up here. All right. If I come into measure and I do a left side Zornha, right? So I come in with this Zornha cut, right? And I attack, okay? I've now trapped my opponent's sword against the shield. I can come in now, press with the buckler, pull my sword through. Now I'm free to separate my sword and buckler because I have control of the weapon. And now I'm free to attack, okay? So that's the only time that you can really separate the sword and the buckler, is when you have control of your opponent's sword. Otherwise, they're basically together. And what other weapon form are we familiar with where basically the two hands are tied together? You guessed it, the long sword or two-handed sword or whatever. Basically, the hands are tied together. Basically, I'm using this part of the sword, the strong part of the sword for defense. I'm attacking with the weak part of the sword. I'm also using this part of the sword for leverage. Okay, so let's think about that. How do these concepts apply to the buckler? All right, same deal here. I have the weak part of the sword up here. I have the strong part of the sword down here. And I have the strongest part of the sword in the buckler. Okay, so that's because this is the strongest part. That's what allows me to attack. To come in, trap that sword, and then make another attack. Okay, so one of the ways to think of sword and buckler fighting is to think of it as fighting with a two-handed sword, or a great sword, or a long sword, or basically any two-handed sword, because most two-handed weapons are going to move in a similar fashion because the two hands are tied together. Okay, so now let's talk about the sword and shield. So with the sword and buckler, we said basically that the sword has to control the center line. Okay, with the shield, okay, which covers almost 80% of my body, the shield controls the center line, which is why I'm free to I can keep my sword back here and enter into measure, because I can rely on my shield for 100% defense. Okay? And the same thing applies here. You know, I can use that to block, come in, you know, and then make another attack. But one of the differences is with the shield, okay, I don't necessarily need to attack that weapon with my sword, okay? You know, one of the things I can do is I can attack the leg, come in with the shield, okay, and then basically make my attack. So it almost allows me to attack in two separate directions at the same time, okay? So as we just said, I'm threatening the leg, all right, pulling the defense to that side, right, and then just coming in and trapping the weapon, right? Or I can basically attack up there, threaten that. You know, basically, if somebody's attacking the left side of my head, I'll typically stack block, right? I'll use both sword and shield because basically I don't know if they're coming over the top. I don't know what kind of a cut they are, so I'm going to kind of double up on my defense. I believe in sword and buckler, they call that the twin shields, or you know, two shields. So basically, if I throw any type of a high cut, one possibility, it doesn't have to be like that, but one possibility is that they're going to basically lift their arm up and try to block that. So as they bring their hands in together, threaten that side, trap that side, you know, and then I'm free to come in the top, over the top with a left side Zwerchhau, or actually a left side Krumpau, okay? Because basically what I'm doing is I'm actually cutting down, right? So I'm coming down. It's almost like a windshield wiper. So that's really a Krump. At this distance, at this range, the way I'm coming in over the top, that's a Krumpau. Okay, Krumpau. I have to practice saying that. Okay. So that's one of the main differences between the sword, you know, between fighting with a full-size shield and fighting with the buckler. With the buckler, the sword has to always enter measure first. The sword has to control the center line. Okay. With the shield can enter measure first, and the shield can control the center line, which leaves our sword free to do other things. Which is why sword and shield is really a two-weapon form, right? You have a weapon in each hand. Whereas with buckler, I see it more as you know, as fighting with a single weapon, okay? Because basically you mostly fight with these things together, okay, until you gain control of the opposing sword, and then you're free to do something else. But you have to control the weapon before you can. You have to control the opposing weapon before you can separate your sword and your buckler. So there's a couple things for you guys to think about. If you have any comments, please post them. You know, if you have, you know, I'm more than happy to hear feedback from anybody. I'm always more than happy to reanalyze, you know, my line of thinking. So that's part of the reason why I'm doing these videos. You know, I want to see what other people think and what other people's ideas are on this subject. Okay, but if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you're not a member, please subscribe so that you can, you know, you can stay up to date with other videos that I post. Talk to you guys next time.